Ordoñez after his 13th strikeout. And there it is! Called strike 3 to France.
That's 100 miles per hour.
100 on his final pitch. 13th strikeout is a called third. Pounds his fist into his glove, acknowledging this crowd on their feet, clapping him into that Tigers dugout.
The pitch. Fly ball, right center. Stevenson and Lee going back. It's near the wall and jumping up. Oh my goodness! Making the...
Oh, yeah. That was one of the most memorable games you'll watch on Sunday night, despite I know I didn't get a chance to watch the broadcast, Brandon, but I apparently didn't miss much because ESPN had security in the press box booth. So it was really weird because there was two guards guards, I say, but they were in polos and they had, like I said, ESPN security. I was like, that's weird. Because I saw a couple times Ron Darling coming back and getting drinks and stuff like that, but then I didn't know that Mike Bertello did that whole StatCast thing.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah. So, I should have watched the StatCast one. I usually would, but I didn't, and I was just scrambling to find a way to watch the game, of course, because and also answering a million questions because every time they do this, and it hasn't been ESPN in a while, but whenever it's on some other, streaming service, I get inundated with a bunch of questions immediately. Like, oh my God, I can't watch the game. How do I watch the game? And like, I don't know, man. ESPN Plus, and then all these people are like, I have ESPN Plus. It's not on there. And I just thought, like, dang, dude, if you can't watch ESPN on ESPN Plus, I'm very confused.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just popped up the old Hulu free trial and caught from about the second inning on, and the broadcast was. I mean, I never expect a national broadcast to be very good, and they had some insight, they kind of understand like what's happening with the Tigers to a degree, but they're still mispronouncing names, and they went on and on about like the shadows helping Skubal when there wasn't a shadow, like the shadow over the field from the beginning, just like those things that they think up where it's like, oh, this is that point that I made one time and people said it was smart, and and just kind of throw that stuff out there. So. It wasn't the best, but for a national broadcast, it can be worse. I like Eduardo at least.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't dislike them. I just don't think they do enough homework to do this.
Yeah. Anyway. World Perez is good. I will say that. Carl Ravage, I like him though. I used to like him on Baseball Tonight, and I still do. Like, I think Carl Ravage is fine. He's a very good broadcaster. I just think that he is a little bit out of his element sometimes when it comes to this stuff. In terms of like doing a national broadcast, Chris,
and we're going to be pickier than everybody else. I take that into account, of course.
Ravitch is like a two-war broadcaster, right? Like, he's fine. There's nothing special there. He's very competent. I don't know why they need extra security. You go up into that press box and you're bound to you're likely to see a Hall of Famer. Given whatever day it is. I think one day we were up there and what is it? Eckersley shuffled by. I was like, oh, look at that. But it was certainly a big stage, and anytime you can get on national TV, it doesn't have the sway it once did, in the 70s or whatever, where it was Monday Night Baseball or Tuesday, whatever. But I mean, you could tell that I think Skubal was up for it, and he was feeding off the crowd. The crowd was up for it. Everybody has been there all day with a chance to get a little lubed up, and I know I'm just kind of bummed that I ended up not going down. I wanted to. I was planning on it, and then we just had too much stuff to go. All this stuff I have to do at the house. I don't know how people do it. I don't know how you do it, Raj. That's where you do stuff at the house, you work the day job, and you go to these games. I was like, I don't know.
I'm done.
Complaining, but
no, it's what? Honestly, Chris, there's sometimes where it's like the secret is extended catnaps. I'm gonna say catnaps and the ability to just. I mean, also I don't have a life. It's just all jokes aside. I don't really do much. I mean, I hang out with my niece and nephew. I'm helping my brother, like just watching base. My nephew, by the way, hit his first home run over the fence.
Oh, nice!
Over the weekend at a USSSA tournament, and so my brother was ecstatic, and my younger brother was the only out of the between the two of us, he was the only one that hit over the fence. He hit one over like I'm not kidding, like a humongous wall in Dearborn Heights, Michigan. And so my brother was more of the natural athlete. Then he goes golfing on Wednesday. My older brother tells me, oh yeah, he shot like I don't know, it was like a 41 on a 9, and he hasn't golfed in like 2 years or something like that. Some ridiculous score. I'm like, oh, that mother. So, and by the way, Sean pre-warned me in the Discord that he would do this to you, Chris. He'd say, "What's happening, fellas? Skubal to St. Louis for Tim Heinke and Arnaldo, according to Jim Bowden. I have it here."
Yeah. What did he say? McGonigal for Arenado. Did he at least throw in Halsey and some stuff like that? That's insanity.
No, we were pointing out like what he does. I how he's employed, I don't know. Beyond like the kind of the incompetence of the writing is he lost his job because he was skimming bonuses from teenage Dominicans.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just knows like, okay, this is a team. This is what I heard their weakness is. Here's a famous name I know who plays that position.
Yeah.
Scan their prospect list. Know nothing about the actual prospects and just go, okay, that's their number 3 prospect. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And that's how he does it.
Yeah, I don't think he's even trying to troll. He's just naturally a troll because he has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, or he's just he does. I think he has a thing of Mad Libs, and then just fills out Mad Lib and just goes, "Oh, this sounds like it."
They can't fire Jim Bowden and hire like, I don't know, Hein Bloom or something to write for them.
Yeah,
someone who would know what was going on might be interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll make fake trades like 6 times a year. I can do that.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to pay me money, I mean, I'm sure they probably pay him in bourbon. I don't know. That sounds harsh, but
it's funny though when you consider that at this time last year, I think we were kind of all contemplating the Skubal trades, right? Like, what can they get for Skubal? And I don't think anybody of us wanted it, but it was like, well, probably not going to happen. And here you are a year later, and Skubal is just the most dominant pitcher on the planet, and the Tigers have the best record in baseball, and all is right in the world.
Yeah. The Orioles do not.
And that's
team that was supposed to get Skubal.
Yeah.
And that's before we get to, because there was a comment about, speaking of that, because there was a question that Stoney from 97.1 asked Hinch relating to that. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our videos on Tiger Minor Report. Please, goes a long way. Follow us on Twitter at Tiger Minor Report, like our Facebook page, and like our Instagram, all that stuff. And just, again, also for Patreon folks, if you want to, we had a couple of people who joined our tier. We are doing draft coverage behind the paywall on some of our videos. So we did a part 1 of infielders, probably do part 2 once Chris gets back from the Twin Cities this weekend, and we'll continue our coverage, and there'll be an article or 2 coming out in the next couple days as well. But no, Stoney asked Hinch about, did you see yourself here in like kind of like, and Hinch knew he was like, okay, come on, let's just get this question over with. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but Hinch is like basically like, look, I'm not worried about that right now. I'm just worried about day by day stuff and everything. And it was just one of those things where you can tell based off it's just like you got Kerry Carpenter, who is literally playing on one good hamstring. Let's call it a spade a spade. I mean, like, just even, I know he's confident he's going to come back and the MRI and all that stuff, but that run from first to second yesterday was absolutely brutal. And if Castro did misplay, I sometimes wished, or I almost wish that Castro did not misplay it, so he would have stayed at second. So I don't know. It's just
the thing is, he heard it on the swing. It looked like he's got the Teacherman Aaron Judge thing where he posts up really big on the back leg and like reaches out. And we've kind of noticed, I think we mentioned this on one of these podcasts the last few weeks, that he's been kind of shortening that up and not stretching as far. And but it put some stress on. And as soon as his right foot hit and he pivoted to swing and hit the ball, you could see him kind of go like, oh, for a second. And then he was just short, choppy stepping it the whole way. So yeah, I mean, he did it on the swing, which is a problem. I don't know what we're gonna do here. I brought this up on Twitter because I just don't. The only rationale I can understand for keeping him playing over the last month is that they don't think it's something that will fully heal without the full off season, and so they're just trying to manage it, which maybe is the case. But if AJ was going to say like, well, we need him, we need Kerry Carpenter. Well, you haven't had Kerry Carpenter in the lineup, I think he has a 70 WRC plus since May 15th. I looked that up last night. It's higher after last night because he had a home run and a triple. But I mean, they got to figure out a way to, like, keep him right for the postseason. We're going to be in the same situation where we've got like lame Kerry Carpenter, hopefully hitting home runs off of Emmanuel Clase or someone else because he can't run. He's got to hit it over the fence. So yeah, the whole situation is just kind of messed up, and and the Tigers aren't dumb, so I don't want to just like scream at them like, "What are you doing?" But they've been trying to rehab this for 6 weeks at least, and while still playing him, and it just hasn't worked. So I don't know what to do other than sit him down through the All-Star break and hope that's enough to get him back on track.
Oh, hey, thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
Yeah, it does figure that Carpenter hasn't done anything in like a month, and then the last 2 games he gets a homer and a triple, and then he comes up lame again. And I do, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a massage therapist, I'm not a physical therapist, but I don't understand how these things work. In my head, you could have basically 2 hamstring injuries: a strained hamstring and a torn hamstring.
Yeah.
I don't know what else there could be. And a strain is basically a slight tear, right? Or inflammation or whatever. Unless it's already torn and he's just running through that somehow.
Yeah.
You would think that any kind of strain can get worse with more use. So I don't know what it could possibly be.
They keep calling it tightness.
And that's
which might have something to do with like lower back, because it's the connection there, but he's never held his back. He's reaching for his leg every time.
Yeah, there was Spankster, the gangster on Twitter, said that he said he first felt it in the outfield, and I think he did when he flopped on the single that Skubal gave up. I mean, you could tell the reason why I was saying, like, you just see his fate, like just the way he was running from first base as he was turning second base. It just looked funky. But that single he gave up to Ty France, I think would have been a catch any other day.
Yeah. The crazy thing about Carpenter too is he made a leaping catch at the wall, just a couple days ago, and then he hits 2 home runs and a triple. So it's like, I just don't know what's going on there. I'm not really sure what to say. All I know is that he's been terrible, and he's had this thing the whole time, and it's hard to believe they're not intimately related. So.
Yeah, and luckily Perez has been shown. If Perez isn't here, that who knows what the outfield situation would be. Look a little more bleaker, and maybe Malloy would probably still be up here. And at some point, you're probably going to see Malloy. Yeah. And the best recommendation, of course, is just to take rest and really do that. Charles, thank you for the $10. He has a question. Much appreciated. And we'll get to Sean's question too. Sean had a $2 question. His question, Charles said, I say put Kerry on the IL for July, move Keith to DH, call up Young with his new batting stance to see if he can improve his trade value with a month of at-bats. Charles, that's actually a pretty solid idea. I mean, I think that if they were going to – because you look at the situation right now in Double-A, at some point in time with McGonigal and Clark and all of them coming up, potentially after the All-Star break, they're going to have to do some sort of flexibility. I don't know what the word is, but they have to have some sort of flexibility to, Hiley's been playing third and second. Now you have Trey Sweeney down there, and you have a glutton of infielders, and you have to make some sort of movement. So I think that would be a good idea just to see what is out there, because the Tigers really have to, at some point, either drop a couple guys or move on from a couple guys, because I know they like having this minor league depth right now, but at the same time, I know that they're waiting for we talked about this. The draft will backfill this roster, fine, but Andrew Navigado's numbers are getting dangerously bad. He's been playing first or second. He's not. I was a big Navigado guy. I don't know what happened to him this year. So I mean,
they just don't let anybody go. Is what? Yeah. They hate to let anybody go. They just at any moment this guy is gonna figure it out. Yeah. I mean, I kind of think Colt Keith might be better than Young at third base, but the idea of calling up Young and just using him the way they use everybody, not like he's going to be the everyday third baseman or something. I can understand that. They might give that a try, because if he can't get it going now, he's probably never going to. Obviously, he'd be trade bait if you could get enough for him. Probably the same is true for Malloy, except that he's a Harris guy, and Harris might have a little more faith in him. And I like Jay Henn's bat. If he could learn to handle the breaking ball better, maybe we'd have something there. But he's had some time to do that, and he's 25 now, so not really banking that either at this point.
as far as the Ryan O'Hearn idea, that's not a bad idea. I mean, if he was a right-handed bat, it'd be, hey, go for it.
He's a good hitter. He's got 3 straight years of being a pretty productive offensive player. But yeah, he doesn't hit lefties at all. But if you can get somebody like an average hitter or better than average hitter for cheap, then sure. I don't know. Is he a free agent after this year? I'm just trying to.
Is he a free agent after this year? He is signed. Yeah, he's a free agent next year. He's signed a 2-year deal. Yeah,
would cost you a little bit more. And then I don't know where you play him. Right, he's a first baseman DH type.
Yeah.
So they kind of have a bunch of those. But I suppose if you, they could always juggle it somehow. But yeah, they probably would go the internal route before they make any kind of moves like that. And I don't necessarily dislike the young idea. I think it comes down to if Carpenter goes on the IL, it's going to come down. The way they look at it is like, all right, how many are we facing? A bunch of lefties soon? Or are we facing a bunch of righties soon?
Right,
and that kind of determines what they do. So it could be Malloy, it could be Hicklin, could be Young.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what they're really the outfield depth right now. Even if you go to going to Erie to Toledo, is a little suspect. It's a little suspect, and they definitely could. They'll get better on the fringes. As much as I hate seeing that cliche, it's true. And yeah,
sorry, Horn signed a 2-year deal last year, so this is the final year. So
okay,
yeah.
All right. When I said free agent 2026, I keep thinking it's just like it's 2024.
It's not a bad idea. I still kind of feel like in general, I don't really expect Harris to hunt for like pure rentals very much. It feels to me like he would be the guy to like try and big brain, like a player that they need like for the next year or two, something like that. But who would that be? It's not Eugenio Suarez. It could be Alex Bregman, but then he can just opt out. So yeah, I don't know. Oh, that's the trade deadline stuff. It's just still really far away. Things might look very, very different in 30 days from now. So
yeah. By the way, our R1 wanted to know how the softball playoffs go. We lost to a team that we had no business losing to. Simple as that. That was some straight up BS. And I went 2 for 3. I actually legged out a bunt single. I overswang and the ball just trickled. And my big ass got down to first base and actually outran it. Was my hamstring sore for a couple days? Yes. Was it worth it? Yeah, absolutely. But we lost 11-5.
Lorenzo did the same thing yesterday.
Who did?
Lorenzo.
Oh, yeah.
A swinging bunt that he beat out because it was like a 20-footer to the left of the pitcher.
Yeah, it's like a golf pitch shot. But what was weird was that we went to 24 seconds in Berkeley afterwards, and a team was sitting next to us that beat us. And then downstairs, they were kind of looking at us and kind of like laughing at us a little bit. But whatever. This one kid who the pitcher kept short arming it, and he also hit a home run, and no business. I didn't understand why you get a home run, but whatever. It was just bad luck. But whatever. It is what it is. We got a couple weeks before we start summer ball again. So cash considerations is back on the. We'll be back on the beat. So
nice. Heck yeah. What's funny is that the thing that like you almost feel like you don't even bother talking about on a podcast right now is Tarik Skubal just being God tier, because I don't know what else to say. Like he was on yesterday and it was sick. So, leaving the broadcast aside, that was something else.
Yeah.
They scrapped out a couple hits and kept him going the complete game or having a shot at a no hitter. But man, those first, 4 or 5 innings, that was as dominant a baseball as you'll ever see pitch. So it was a treat.
Yeah, it was also the fact he also used all 4 of his pitches. He used his breaking ball, and that was the big thing he talked about with us yesterday was that he was, and Hinch talked about how important that was to get on top of the zone with that. But the fact that in addition to his changeup being is always speller, the curveball, some of the breaking stuff, which is sometimes a struggle for him to do. They were all overreaching. I mean, but the one thing that both Hinch and Skubal had in common, and Chris and I talked about this guy, Brian Buxton. Thank God they didn't have to face him anymore.
Yeah.
I
love Byron Buxton. Yeah,
I do too. But
that dude. Yeah,
not against the Tigers.
Player. No, not at all. And that was it was just such a juicy start to the game that he threw the first changeup first pitch he's thrown in his entire career. And Buxton, swings first pitch looking for fastballs. He knows Skubal always throws a first pitch fastball to start a game. And when he saw the changeup, you could see that wry smirk on his face, like, okay, all right, so it's going to be a little different tonight. Finally, yeah, that was funny. And then the two of them jawing it up after he flew out to left too. That's something to appreciate about Skubal too, is that as intense as he is, he appreciates everything going on, and the competition and everything, and he's having a good time for the most part. I mean, I'd have a good time too if I was like
there was he mentioned that. He mentioned that too. He was mentioning that too. He said that he's like they were having a couple of words and having a good laugh about it. But that was the biggest takeaway that I had yesterday too, was the fact that it was just early in the count too. Like, just even there's a couple of times where he got to 3-0 and he just came back and was like, nope. And even if he just missed, I think it was the walk. I want to say, was it to
Vasquez? That walk, like, that ball just missed like by that much.
Yeah.
That was everybody booed, but that wasn't the right call. It was a ball.
Yeah.
But no, it was, even the Ty France stuff was like, Minnie Mouse crap. It was just like, yeah.
No, he is now like it's Verlander level. Like, you have to watch him, right? And he's throwing more strikes than Verlander ever did, which is kind of crazy. It's you got that quote from Hinch last night, and he said he really appreciated him. He was dropping in those first pitch knuckle curves and using the slider occasionally. And like, I remember Hinch saying at the end of last year that Skubal could still get better because of those pitches. He hasn't really developed those pitches to the point where he can. I don't know if he ever will or has to, honestly. Like, he can probably get through most big league lineups 2.5, 3 times with just the four-seamer, sinker, and changeup.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's also like, I've often compared him to Max Scherzer in terms of like the intensity, but it's not quite like, he has more fun than Scherzer ever did. Scherzer was just like wanted to eat your heart. And Skubal wants to do that, but he's also having fun. Like you said, him chopping it up with Buxton, saying like, why did you swing at that slider? You're supposed to take that. But I think he could have that fun because he knows that nobody could touch him right now. He's going to got occasionally, home run here, home run there. He gave up 4 runs to the A's, but yeah, like, he's so good right now that it's just it's his world.
Yep. And he's kind of just matured into this, accepted the fact that, okay, like, I'm a spokesman for the game. I'm one of the 5 biggest stars in baseball, even though it's Detroit and they don't promote him necessarily the way they would, if he was in LA or New York or something. But yeah, I mean, he's just kind of grown before our eyes, just in sort of like a team leadership spokesman sort of a way too. And you can see he's like, he's been thoughtful about, how he conducts himself. He was a little chagrined about him. Some of the things he said coming off the mound when he was all super fired up in the ALCS last year, or DS, and like, taking grief from his mom and like thinking about it and openly talking about those things, and like thinking about how he presents himself a little bit more. I mean, it's just all those things growing up there. We saw them when they were just pups, and they've all grown up. Casey Mize just announced his wife is pregnant. They're becoming seasoned veteran major league dudes now.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, I think my favorite comment was Mike Petrello when the tweet where he says, the other guy starts throwing the first pitch, the game fastball, each of the previous 119 starts, then you get a changeup, and he has that smile of Buxton. That kind of stuff was pretty funny. But I mean, the one moment yesterday that I wanted to share with everybody, because I don't look. Let me put a disclaimer. I am a writer. Technically, I am a writer. This is a hobby. This is like whatever you want to call this. Like, I'm in the Baseball Writers Association. Certain level of professionalism. You do your job, and you try to avoid fan moments, and you don't ask for autographs or anything like that. You just act yourself like a professional. And whatever we do, we're podcast content creators. I don't know what the hell we're exactly called. I don't know. That being said, yesterday I went to ask him a question about the humidity, because it was really hot when they hit the field. And Skubal, who grew up in Arizona, is dry heat. So there's a difference in how you pitch, because the moisture, the ball could affect everything. And so during the media scrum, and it was packed in there, like just like everybody was like just literally just like a little too close to comfort for my personal. It was like I don't like my personal space being invaded.
You could smell all the other reporters' dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like but that being said, I'm wearing this Connecticut Tigers hat, a hat that I've had for a long time. I got it when the Connecticut Tigers switched to the Norwich Sea Unicorns, and simply because it's an old English sea. Simple as that. And my wife was like, "You're not leaving the house without wearing a hat." And anyway, I'll take it away. Pitching in humidity different than pitching in dry heat.
Is that a CT Tigers hat?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Say the question again.
Oh, no, it's okay. I got it for $5. So, is it a difference in pitching a humidity versus dry heat?
I think I got a lobster roll for you if you want it.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
sweet.
That was a giveaway day. But
yeah, so that was it was a moment where.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't. I mean, literally just wearing my hat, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, what just happened? And but either way, it was. Yeah, you're right, Brandon. He is very deliberate when he speaks, and he is very. You can tell, and so it was very apparent to us yesterday. But
this is a man who's transcended nerves now and can be more conscious of everything going on around him, while still being, the best pitcher in baseball, which is awesome.
Yeah. And so the one of the other starters I wanted to highlight this week, and you brought it up, Brandon, earlier in the week, or that happened on Thursday, was a gentleman that we've talked about would probably get some time in the majors. And because he's been doing pretty well in Toledo, is Dietrich Enns, who pitched on Thursday, and he pitched a shutout. The Tigers dominated 1-8-0. And the last time he started in the majors was in 2017. And it was a long road back, and he's been pitching pretty effectively, and he was able to. It's so funny. Like the last time he pitched the majors, he picked up a win. Was he struck out Candelario, Haas, and Dustin Garneau over 4 innings for the Rays. I'll pitch Tyler Alexander. So anyway, it was just cool to see. It was a cool story, and he went out, and we'll give the Tigers another start. Charles wants to know, is he scheduled to pitch this week? Is Sawyer Gibson Long moving in the bullpen if Olsen gets called up? I don't know. I think Sawyer Gibson Long's fine in the rotation.
I think so too, but they can't send Enns down, or they'd have to DFA him, and they're not going to do that. And they don't seem, I don't know, they don't seem like 100% confident that Reese Olson is good to go. I don't know, like it could come out tomorrow that Reese Olson's, pitching Wednesday, and we'll just be like, okay. But I don't know. I can't help wondering if they're maybe sort of stashing Reese Olson a little bit as much as possible to keep him fresh for the second half, and also to let them kind of work that out between Enns and SGL, because maybe Enns just goes to the bullpen and they let Herder go down to get tuned up, because I've never seen Herder like this, the way he's been the last 3 or 4 outings.
He's been hanging up too. Yeah.
I mean, he's just been kind of all over the place, and he's not that guy. So I'm not really sure what to say, but I do know, I'm convinced that Dietrich Enns is going to be with the team until he absolutely proves that he shouldn't be. And I mean, he looked pretty good. The thing probably you guys too, like you watched him in Toledo, like the fastball was really effective, but you just don't know if that's going to play, and you don't know how the changeup is going to play off that. And I don't 100% trust it unless everyone agrees with me, and I've seen it against major league hitters. So it was really nice to kind of see that, and see the way the fastball and the changeup and the cutter all played against, a pretty good A's offense. They're not, they're slightly above average, let's say. And it worked out pretty well. And then, I think it was Evan Petzold who picked up on it first, but the fact that he's throwing the kick change, that was pretty cool. Just because, that's the hotness right now. And we've kind of seen the Tigers go through these phases with off-speed pitches the last couple of years as the development systems got better and better, where not, they started trying to teach everybody who didn't have a good changeup a splitter. They developed this seam shifted sort of cut changeup for Skubal that's become one of the best pitches in baseball. And that's one of those ones where you don't have to turn it over. You don't have to pronate with it. You can just kind of hold it through and supinate. You don't even necessarily have to supinate. You just can kind of karate chop your way through that thing, and without doing anything, and it just comes out that way. So they developed that pitch, and now the kick change. I don't know. Tread Athletics, I guess, claims they developed it, or at least codified it. Every grip has been tried. Somebody's spiked their middle finger on a changeup grip.
Vulcan. There's also the Vulcan changeup.
The Bosch, the palm ball, star grip. whatever. There's a million, but the fact is the kick change is another one where you don't have to pronate, and Enns doesn't do that very well. He's very much like a straight four seam, and can make the ball move left to right, that way as a lefty for all the right-handers out there the other way. So yeah, I mean that's kind of cool, and it's cool that the Tigers like figured out how to use that pitch, how to teach it, and who it might benefit that quickly, because it really just kind of became like a thing you started hearing about late last season. And
well, actually, it goes back a little bit further than that, because we were hearing guys in the minor leagues what was it, Chris? When we were in Erie, they're talking about the changeup a little bit, throwing that changeup. That was became a hotness a little bit, starting 2-3 years.
That kick one though, the one.
Oh, I'm sorry, not the kick one necessarily, but it was the making the changeup became more of some variation of the changeup was becoming more like some guys, for example, weren't throwing the changeup before, and started throwing. That became more of a pitch that the Tigers were instructing guys to do, like Rivas and what have you. Herder, for example,
trying all those different things, and that's the thing. Like the kick change isn't like a secret pitch. It's just that there are so many guys who can't throw a circle change or they can't split it, and trying to find an off speed pitch for those guys. There's never been that many options, and now there suddenly are. There's all these guys who don't have to pronate, don't have to be able to split it, and might have an option, and maybe the fastball slider guy who can't come up with a third pitch becomes a little bit more of an anachronism, that they can find something that will work without him having to manipulate his arm differently. But anyway, so the kick change kind of became the hotness. The Tigers already figured out how to teach this. They identified Dietrich Enns. They taught him the pitch, and it's working. Another convincing win for the Tigers player development system. Yeah,
36% whiff rate in Toledo too with that. So, Sean, thank you for the $5. I appreciate it. I haven't played this in a while.
Exquisite.
He wants to know last two names to give the thoughts on. Let's see here. I pull it up. Adolis Garcia, one arbitration year left, couple uneven season. Reed Detmers, 3 arbitration seasons left. Pricey. Thanks. No, thank you, Sean, for the $5.
I do like Reed Detmers. I like that idea.
I like that idea too. Garcia, I don't just see Texas giving up Garcia though. I don't. Then again, I do like that.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. He's just been inconsistent, so I'm just not sure how much more of an upgrade he is, or whether or not we should just keep playing Jahmai Jones in that role for another month and just see if he can kind of keep doing this. I don't know if he can, but you might want to find that out before you go get kind of like a rental platoon part-time player. I'm still good with trading for Bregman if he's healthy. So I don't know. I'll throw my 2 cents in there. I'm not going to give you, any of the top 5. And maybe they won't trade him to us, but I'm still interested.
Yeah, I think by the way, the night that the trade deadline is going, I think we're doing a show that night anyway, so that actually works out.
I'm still going to bitch that they didn't sign him in the first place. And we have to give up prospects for him, Scott, you goofball. But but I'd still be game for doing it for the right price. And I assume Bregman's got a no trade clause, so it's not like there's going to be 10 different offers at him. There's probably only going to be 1 or 2 or 3. So if the Tigers make an offer and go and get him, I'll be happy about it. I'll still be annoyed about the off season, but that's fine.
So Joe, thank you for the $10. We really appreciate it. He said, thanks again for all the Tigers content, fellows. What have we seen this month out of Greene that have been so fun? Could Greene ceiling be a 35 homer or 40 homer guy? Hashtag extend Greene now.
That ball is gone.
Well, he's got 19, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Touch him all time.
I think, Joe, just watching that home run he hit to right field the other night, that holy shit majestic blast.
Yeah.
I think Greene could hit 35 home runs. I think he could hit right now. I'd be excited to see 30 home runs, which we haven't seen from a homegrown prospect.
I want 40 because he's almost halfway there.
I'm gonna. Yeah,
Torque hit 30 home runs just 2 years ago.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. From the outfield.
I don't think that they've ever had a homegrown outfield hit 30 home runs. Maybe Steve Kemp.
Kemp, I think did. Let me double check that. From the outfield, Torque. Yeah, no, you're right about Torque. But I was just thinking about outfielders. I think Steve Kemp had a year where he hit 27, 28 before he got traded for Chet Lemon. But I'm double checking out. But Baseball Reference is running immensely slow.
It's a good example of why maybe they should just bring in Mike Tyson to talk to these guys and because I want uppercuts, and you see what McGonagall's doing, and you see what Riley Greene is doing, and both of them hit the ball in the air to the pole field constantly, and they sell out hard to do it. And Riley Greene strikes out, quite a bit trying to do it, but it works when you're good enough. Oh yeah. Oh, there's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, Higginson did do 30 once, right? But before that, it might be Willie Horton.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Granderson. Did Granderson? Chris Granderson?
He didn't hit 30 with the Tigers.
Yeah, with New York he did. Yeah.
Yeah, but not Detroit. Gibby.
He may have.
Think so. Let me see here. I'm looking at him up too right now.
I feel like he got like 29 and like 30 steals one year or something like that. Not Kyle Gibson. Sorry. You see the K in the Gibson. Gibson hit 29 and 30 steals. And 30 steals. So yeah, Gibby hit 27, 29, 28, 24 in his last 4 years.
Jason, I was talking about outfielders. Jason Thompson was the first baseman, I believe. So oh man, I'm trying to think. Bobby Higginson hit 30 home runs a year that Juan Gonzalez was in front of him, right?
Yeah, and I want to say he hit 30 home runs and batted 300 that year, I think.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, I think you can go back and look at our scouting reports from Riley Greene. You might be able to. I don't know where they exist now, but I think we predicted his ceiling as a guy who could hit 30 plus home runs and bat 300. And he's coming awfully close to that. And that's, we could have this discussion today or sometime later, but I was posing this question to the Discord earlier about all the Tigers prospects over the last 30 years or so. And this
Granderson did hit 30 home runs here.
Oh, I'll be damned.
Yeah,
sorry about that. I thought he topped our like in the mid 20s. Granderson would be one of the guys who fits this description for me. But I was trying to like ask people which prospects actually hit like their ceiling or their 90th percentile outcome that came through the Tiger system, because it's not that many. And they're pretty notable, right? Skubal, sure. Verlander, yes. I think Granderson's one of them. I think Eugenio Suarez is one of them, although certainly not with the Tigers, but I don't think anybody ever thought he was going to be a 300 home run guy down the road.
Let me be cheeky and just say Tyler Alexander.
I mean, yes. So I mean,
there's the low side to hitting your 90th percentile.
No, but it's true. Like, and then there were some that I struggled with, right? Like Rick Porcello, won a Cy Young and it had a really solid big league career for sure. And honestly, like when we saw him, I was like, okay, so the stuff really isn't necessarily that special. He's just got, tremendous advanced sort of strike throwing ability and a sinker, and he figured the rest out kind of slowly as he went.
What about a guy like Omar Infante, for example? I mean, Omar Infante.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that he was an all-star. I think the hope when Omar Infante was coming up, though, and he had the tools, was that he's going to be like a perennial 2020 guy, right? Like, it's just kind of like even like Nick Castellanos. Did Nick Castellanos reach what you thought his ceiling could be? I mean, he's had some really nice seasons, but he's never been a good defender. It's never been terribly consistent. Like some guys are just kind of undone by their plate discipline. If that makes any sense. Like
Nick Castellanos is like 86 percentile. Like you kind of thought there'd be like a few seasons where he hit 290, 300 with 30 home runs. Like that seemed like the peak seasons for him, and he got close to that, but never quite there.
Yeah, and so I mean, I would argue that Riley Greene is doing that, right? Like he may continue to get better and better. But yeah, it's a guy who's going to hit close to 300 and probably hit 30 plus home runs and be a multi-time homegrown all-star. That's about all you could have dreamed from him when you drafted him.
Yeah.
And I just say that to think about, and somebody else had a really interesting comment when we posted that, the list of all the Tigers future games participants. And they said, you know what, if every time that the Tigers had 3 participants in the futures game, one of them made an all-star game. It basically, one of them became an above average big leaguer, one of them was average, and one of them was a bust. Like every time. It's only happened like 5 times, but every time it worked out that way. So I was like, that's pretty interesting. That's kind of like the theory of prospects, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just that's the spread. Yeah. Well, all right. I have to give it to Nick Castellanos because in 2021 he did hit 34 home runs and batted 309. Yeah, but he only put up like 3 or 4 WAR because he can't play anywhere in the field.
but there, like, I mean, the case could be made. There's like, for example, Kerry Carpenter. Here's the thing about like the prospects. So Kerry Carpenter, on the other hand, was a 19th round draft pick. So it's like, well,
150th percentile.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kerry Carpenter was the penny stock who blew up somehow. Like
Bobby Higginson too. I think I would say, you know what, Bobby Higginson, the same thing, because Higginson, the scout who found him, who was I did a series of articles on him, based off the fact that the Tigers were really bad at we've already noted this, but Higginson came along when unexpectedly, really. I mean, there wasn't the Tigers had guys like Eric Munson, for example. When I was looking him up earlier, I did that article. I was like, Munson was a third pick overall, and he did absolutely buckus. Total, it was a total. He went to USC, so he had the prestige and all that, and he didn't do nothing. I don't know if it was him. He's a bigger bust than Phil Nevin was. I mean, Nevin
eventually figured it out down the road.
Exactly. Eric Munson never did.
No.
It can always be so tricky too, because Riley Greene to me was like a 60 until sort of the last minute when I was like, all right, Riley Greene's probably going to be really good, and he probably should have been a 70. But that happens because that last jump is just kind of, can happen in season. Like whatever you're kind of like hedging your bets about something, and then they figure it out and they're gone before anybody re-ranks or regrades them. So, it can be tricky to do the math on those things sometimes. But if you did it with like the whole cohort over the last 10 years, I'm sure it would just wash out.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a rapid fire here real quick. Sorry to get us sidetracked. We're already 40 minutes in. We haven't even touched on the minors really. Willie Adames, I do think has hit that 90 percentile ceiling. I mean, you could argue he could hit better, but it's, he got paid a ton of money and he's had a good big league career.
But if you get into guys who traded, it's tough because John Smoltz,
Yeah, Paredes has, I think, going back, I have seen Brent Hurter look like this once, and it was right when he got to Double-A. His very first couple starts in Double-A.
That's right, yeah.
He was he couldn't throw strikes, and he was like
two pitches essentially.
After every pitch, he would look down at his landing spot and then like, what's going on here? Like it was weird, and he eventually figured it out.
He also looked like he wasn't doing the little rocking.
He wasn't rocking the baby.
No. He was very it was basically he was a 2-pitch pitcher until he got to Erie, and then he really had to develop a third pitch in order to stay around, and then that was something that was discussed beforehand. So let's go into the minor league. Let's go into the Weber report. Yeah, let's breeze through this pretty quickly as. The minor leagues this week there's a lot of little things that wouldn't happen, especially with Erie, but we'll talk about that in a second. As it felt like though that the Mud Hens did better than they faced, I thought they had a better record than Charlotte, but I was surprised to see they finished 2-4 against them. As Andre Lipsius went on his revenge tour, and he had a 9th inning home run, and then he had another home run. He was just a pain in the ass all week, and sure his wife somewhere was just like, "Yeah, see, I told you." And, shout out to her and having her husband's back at all times. But Trey Sweeney, as Hinch mentioned to us on Saturday, is going to get the lion's share of time in the left side of the infield. So that's going to complicate things a little bit. And this is where I think, and there was a question earlier about how that's going to shake up the rest of the roster. They're going to have to make a decision soon because there was just so much at-bats, only so many at-bats you have because it was Workman and Navigado playing the lion's share at shortstop. And now with Sweeney there, they could probably move Workman in outfield, have Kreidler, who's been playing time in center field, but Badu's not on the 40-man roster. So they're going to get 40-man roster guys priority. But Lee had his best week. I mean, coming into that week, though, he's been struggling. He was batting under 220, but his OPS was high. But overall, Melton, by the way, 97-99 yesterday, was dealing on Tuesday. His career high 10 strikeouts on Tuesday. Yesterday, he looked okay. It could be the humidity, what have you. But the Tigers also signed their first ever South Korean pitcher. I think they've signed a position player. I was talking to Jason Beck about this. I'm pretty sure they signed a minor league or Korean player before, or maybe it was from Taiwan. I'm not 100%, but either way,
we definitely had a Taiwanese kid, and I think it was Xiao Ching Chang.
Yes, that's right. Then you end up going to Cleveland, right? Or
was Fute
He was Taiwanese. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'd have to go back and look, but
Yeah.
certainly, it's not a terribly common occurrence, and it's just another example of them basically scouring everywhere at all times.
Yeah.
And you said he looked pretty good. I didn't actually get a chance to see it.
Yeah, so he didn't. I was talking to Jerry about this a little bit. He was throwing more of his slider than his split finger. That's what his split finger is known for. But Woo Sok Suk Go, who was originally signed out of the KBO from the Padres, ended up coming out of the Marlins, where Jacksonville, where he had an ERA over 5, but looked pretty solid. It was a guy who went out there and picked up 2 saves pretty quickly. By the way, I did not know Trevor Michael. What the hell did Trevor Michael come in Toledo?
They bumped him up 2 weeks ago. I think basically just the sort of org guy. They need some help there, and he's been striking everybody out. It's like
Yeah.
oh wait, yeah. I mean it's easy to forget that he does have like a pretty nasty breaking ball at times. He's never been consistent enough, and there's not much else beside that.
Yeah, I think they brought him up. Was it when Enns got called up? But it was some scramble mode bullpen day thing, and he threw 3 innings his first time and did fine.
Yeah, it was like 4 walks and 5 strikeouts the first time with no hits, and this time it's yeah. So I don't know. It's one of those things like, what do you know? Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a. See here, MLB Pipeline just announced joins the Tigers' top 30 prospects list as Sawyer Gibson Long graduates. What? Okay, that makes no sense.
Well, no, I mean he officially has had enough service time, I think, in innings now to graduate. Who joined the list?
Dylan Smith.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear this. Yeah, I didn't hear the name.
It says Sawyer Gibson Long graduated from the top 30, and so Dylan Smith is now graduated into the Pipeline one, which to me makes no sense. Anyway. Well,
I just cannot consider a 27-year-old man a prospect anymore. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
But I understand the way they break it down.
I don't know. I'm kind of the Moon Mammoths report. So yes, the Erie Seawolves are under a rebrand thanks to John tonight with John Oliver, as they went into the history of the Seawolves, the history of Erie. And it combines 2 things that I know I have a dear friend out there that loves, which is space and elephants. And so that is a sweet logo. I really like the logo. I like the whole gear. Everything looks pretty sweet. And I think they nailed it. And we're going to be going to the game on July 19th. We're going to be going to the Friday game too as well, where we think, again, let me so you guys can see my face here. We think that Kevin McGonigal and Max Clark. Go ahead, Chris.
No, we have zero information on this. This is just kind of an educated guess, right? This is the first series after the Futures game.
Yeah.
After like a 5 or 6 game break in the minors, and it's their first series back home in Erie. It's a 3-game series, and they're doing the John Oliver thing. It feels like the sort of time to move these guys up.
Yeah.
Perfect timing, or we riot. Who's with me?
Yeah.
All of you in the comments, join with me.
There is a it's already standing room only for the Saturday game, for the John Oliver game. So John Oliver will be on hand. So who knows? Tiger Mind looking for John. I don't see that happening. That would be kind of funny though.
We'll see if we could get it. I want to see if we can talk him up about the Mets. I know he's a Mets fan. We'll chat him up.
Mets prospects. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
but we'll be in town Friday and Saturday for that series, and so there'll be very good timing for everything. And
if people don't know don't know the name and like why they named him that, it's that guy. What was it, George? I guess it was George Moon.
Yeah, George Moon.
Found a giant mammoth like skeleton, the most fully intact one in the Great Lakes region, like back in the early 90s, I think. Yeah, 1991. Yeah. So that's kind of cool that they dug into it and tried to find some like funky local thing to name them after, and it's fun. The logo's pretty cute, and hopefully people who love this stuff are stoked and go buy all the gear, and it's great for Greg and the boys out there.
Yeah, some guys, of course, there's somebody on Twitter. Oh, I don't like it. Well, I mean, I don't get it. Was there not to get? It helps out the community. It helps out a team who, by the way, still hasn't lost a series.
Yeah.
Still has not lost a series yet.
It's the minor leagues. It's a carnival, you know.
Yeah.
2015, I watched Justin Verlander take the first ball from a dude in a
Dinosaur.
dinosaur costume on Jurassic
while wearing a Jurassic Park jersey, right? Like, yeah. It's like, yeah,
And
boy.
you could see in his face, he was like, "Where am I? Did I not eat the right Taco Bell order today? What happened?"
What Stone Joker, what are the best places to visit on a trip down to Erie? We
I can tell you a list right now.
yeah, I mean, we have a handful of places we like to hit up every time, but also that waterfront place we went to with the live music a few years back.
Yeah.
We went down there after they clinched the playoffs 3 years ago, and a bunch of the players were down there too. We saw like Parker Meadows and so forth down there hanging out, listening to music, and that was a cool scene. But yeah, lots of places we like to hit up.
Yeah, so Lucky Louie's Beer and Wieners is a hot dog stand that's really good to check out. It's off Perry Highway. I would recommend that. There is Shirley's. That's our breakfast spot that we go to. That's a local spot. So if you're trying to think of non-chain places, but technically, so Panari Brothers, which is not in Michigan anymore, which is a damn shame. Panari Brothers is really good too. They're open till 1 a.m. and they have really good sandwiches with fries in them. So if you want that whole West Pennsylvania experience, I would recommend going there. But
there's nice places by the stadium too. We go to what's the name of that place that has the good cheap bar food?
Are you talking about the Irish place? Or are you talking about?
Does it have an Irish name?
You're talking about the Plymouth. Wait, you talking about the
Plymouth Tavern? Plymouth Tavern.
Yeah, Plymouth Tavern is really good. That's good. Yeah, it's a good call out there. Also, Oliver's Beer Garden is a good one too. And the only one I haven't. There's another one that I'm trying to think of. I've only been there once. Was the Jekyll and Hyde's Gastropub? That's a really good one too. So,
and there's also the one place we went with the front office staff took us there as a treat that one time. That was really nice. It's not like super nice, but it was a cooler place to sit down and eat. I've forgotten. It was when Ohio State and Notre Dame were playing. I forgot.
I forgot. You know what? Joe is by the way, Joe's our Pennsylvania expert. That's right. Yeah, Joe would know. The place is ironically called Oliver's Beer Garden. Yeah. So, Joe, if you want to put some suggestions in there for Stone Joker to check out, by all means, Joe is our aficionado when it comes to all things Pennsylvania. By the way, I will say this. Let me make this declaration to you right now. Sheetz is better than Wawa. There, I said it. Sheetz is fantastic. Look, there's a Sheetz that open up here in Romulus, and then these people in Livonia are like, I don't want Sheetz in Livonia. First of all, get over yourself. It's a gas station that has food. It's going to bring some sort of element to it. Shut up, Livonia. Like, get over yourself. Okay? Like, get over yourself. Mm-hmm. It's a gas station that has food. So what? Big deal. What criminal element are you talking about here? Anyway, but Sheetz I had Sheetz 3 times when I was there a couple weeks ago, and it's fantastic. It's just for what you're trying to get down there. Adam, I love Smith's hot dogs. Those are really good too. Nick dropping a bomb in here. He said, got some intel that the Orc is ranking all the players currently across analysts and Biomex. Maybe anticipating deadline. Ooh. Nice.
I mean, it's mid-season. It seems like time for re-ranking for everybody. I can see that, but they're also they're trying to get prepared for the trade deadline. They're trying to figure out exactly like what they value everyone at right at this point in time, and get them in the best situation to start wheeling and dealing, which I assume they will do. Who was it who just said they saw Mason Miller throw 103 miles per hour by Brandon Lowe? Sean Patrick. Yes, we should trade for Mason Miller. I agree.
We just turn Troy Melton into Mason Miller.
Yeah, keep Troy Melton and turn him into Mason Miller too. And then what? Lorenzo? How about Lorenzo and Ham for Mason Miller? Can we do that?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Ham is injured, and I hate that. I was trying to.
I was hoping it was minor.
Yeah. But no, Ham his velocity was down to 89, 88, 89.
I'm too late. I'm too late. All right, how about Ethan Scheffelbein?
He doesn't exist anymore. He pitched a few games and hasn't pitched in like 6 weeks, and he's not on the injured list, and who knows. I mean, you could see that the pitching depth is getting really tested in AA. Raj touched on it last week, but like they gave starts to Troy Watson and Andrew Magno this week.
Yeah.
It's basically Surwa, Pena, and Burhan right now, and then they're trying to figure it out with the rest of them. And the thing is, there's not really any obvious, like we talked about Andrew Sears being a guy who could come up. They brought up Colin Fields. Like they have some guys they can bring up, but there's nobody that's like a natural prospect call up other than maybe Sears. So
Yeah,
they're going to have to figure it out.
West Michigan guys are either older or like Rayner aren't really doing anything.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's it's been interesting though that the bullpen guys have done that well. But yeah, I mean Erie's bullpen's been pretty good. Richard Gouache has had a
Gosh.
really good week. Like only walked one dude. Dude pumps 97, 98. He's got a pretty wicked slider.
And you know what, Brandon, I was going to tell you this. I think I was going to say I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but he throws two types of sliders to the left and right side. And so like that's something that I learned and I picked up on. And there was one thing too that really about him that it's like he has a veteran experience. He is kind of a guy who has been closing games out in the Mexican League. But there was one thing. What was the other thing I mentioned about him that was, I think he might get some consideration. I really think so because he's been able to, the velocity's there along with Pettit, which is kind of, why they haven't called up Pettit either. But there was I'm trying to think, there was a tweet that I saw earlier about
Pettit's still a little more of a sinker-ish, not real hard throwing guy. I mean, I guess I kind of get it, but he has been good. I mean, he's been very effective, but maybe just doesn't have the wow factor right now for what they kind of need at the back end of the bullpen, I guess.
The Seawolves bullpen right now is best in the Eastern League at 2.2 ERA of 2.27. West Michigan 2.69. Nice. That's also ranked number one. Mm-hmm. Real quick, Lakeland number 2 at 3.77, and the FCL Tigers at 3.16. The DSL Tigers, Toledo.
They're just good. Yeah,
if you can throw the ball over the plate, you're an advanced pitcher at the DSL.
Yeah, there you go. If you don't walk anybody, then you're a god, pretty much down there. But Max Anderson continuing to do Max Anderson things, just keeps on hitting, as simple as that. And that is just Erie in the last 3 years has had one guy who's carried the offense. So last year it was Ayu Lee. The year before that it was Colt Keith. Yep. Now this year is Max Anderson. And they all have one thing in common, gentlemen. Infielders.
Well, and once they promoted Keith, it was randomly Justice Bigby 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And Bigby's back.
Yeah, and it's still like, the cast of, kind of veteran minor league characters, Holton, Cruz, Mendoza. Those guys are still doing a lot of damage, obviously, and helping out. But yeah, as far as prospects go, pretty much the Max Anderson show. Lorenzo's been fine. Hasn't really, caught fire for an extended stretch yet or anything. And that's kind of it. Other than that, it's a lot of depth guys.
We did get somebody tweet at us today, kind of angry that Max Anderson wasn't chosen for the Futures game, which I get because he's having an awesome year. And you asked why, and I was like, well, I think they probably want to get the top 100 prospects there, as many of them as they can. And there's only so many prospects you can take from a team. And it's not like, Clark and Briseño and McGonigal are having bad years. They're all tearing it up pretty well. So it's like,
doesn't it feel like they usually kind of skew lower or younger, basically? Like it's not, you're not necessarily going to get, the AAA guys all the time.
If you've got a good or interesting farm system, they like the younger guys. Those bad years when the Tigers, like their representative was like, Wilkin Ramirez and Jordan Leonardton, and these guys are like in AAA, and they're like, well, we got to pick somebody.
Yeah.
So, they've gone AA before. Wilmer Flores was that one year. They've had Manning and Bo Burrows and stuff like that. And in a different year, I'm sure they would have picked Max Anderson. But
and he has been great. But it's not it's not disrespect to him. He's just not on those guys' level as a prospect yet.
Yeah, and that's where again because they want to see more. They want. I mean, this is his first year where he's put up some really impressive numbers, and so. I think that's what it is, really. And so at the same time, the three they chose, you can't really argue that.
You can't argue it. It's probably 3 top 25 guys, you can argue about Briseño and his defensive, utility eventually or whatever, but they're all right. 3 top 50 for sure. Like if you don't have those 3 in your top 50, you suck at this. And one more thing, if you're heading from Michigan to Erie, and I just want to offer this place because it's such a bizarre little tourist trap. But Seneca Caverns, which is basically just south of Cedar Point and Sandusky, it's called the Crack in the Earth, and it's just this like cave with a store built on it, and it's like I haven't been there in a long time, but it just has the sketchiest vibes. Like if I was a kid and like my dad had taken me down there and we went like 120 feet down in the earth through all this like zigzagging, fissure cavern to get down to the stalactites and everything way down deep there with just like some random person, not like a park official or anyone affiliated with any regulated activity. That's your place. Seneca Caverns, kids. It's a good time. It's a good stopover.
I am not going underground in any caves. That is not my thing.
Chris, I'm going to stick you spelunking.
I mean, I like the idea, kind of. It's that whole like, well, we're stuck here.
Yeah.
Like that.
You'll get that feeling because there's just no one to trust there. It's just kind of like they're hawking you merch. And hey, you kids want to come down into the depths of the cavern and see where the water starts boiling up and can flood? Yeah, I do.
You ever see that illustration of the guy who was like, doing some cave exploring and got stuck upside down and he couldn't get out and just died like that? I'm like, no. I'm good.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
No, my klutzy ass, I'd probably fall and die. That's just the way I like to, look at it like that. Oh yeah, Jake says that place is awesome, so Jake knows exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, brother.
Too many disaster videos, Walter. I just think of like guano or something from like
I don't know.
Yeah. There was a place, I guess there's a place in Africa. I watched this in Unsolved Mysteries where this guy went in. There was like a cave, and they came out and they got really sick. It was like Ebola like stuff, and they only got it by going in the cave. And I was like, yeah, you know what? And I guess it was something in the air in the cave that caused everybody to get sick. I'm like, nope.
I don't care where you are, China, the Congo, Belize, just avoid the bats. I like the bats. I have no beef with the bats, but they breed nothing but death.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Look, there's nothing redeeming about a bat in a cave. I'm sorry. There's not. I don't care what anybody says. It's, they have their purpose. They eat the bugs and they do their thing and, what have you. But, so by the way, Charles here said, I think Scott Harris is trying to break the Appleton Foxes record. The Appleton Foxes hold the Midwest League record for most wins in a single season with 97, achieved in 1978. It's a fun fact. I have that roster pulled up for you. You know how many major league players were on that team? I'll tell you right now.
0.
Guess who? Former broadcaster Rod Allen.
Oh,
nice. Rod Allen. Rod Allen was on that roster. Guess who else was on that roster? A guy by the name of one of the best pitchers, a baseball pitcher wise, on a baseball card ever because his gut was just hanging out and he won a Cy Young. Lamar Hoyt.
Oh, Lamar. Yeah.
Lamar Hoyt went 18-4. He started 27 games. And think about it this way. He was a workhorse. 189 innings, 187 hits allowed, 115 strikeouts. So imagine dominating that. Jackie Smith, however, who was part of that rotation, had 112 strikeouts, 112 innings pitched, 130 strikeouts. Didn't make it to major leagues. Mm-hmm. So, but there was a total of only a handful of guys for those White Sox teams in the early '80s that made it. So Ross Bumgarner was the other one too that made out of the rotation. So they actually had a really good. Yeah, that's actually good call there, Charles. But
that's amazing. Maybe that is the goal because it is getting ridiculous. What are they 52 and 22 right now? It's insane.
There is there's in a different world you could
Shout
see
out to Robert Stack.
Robert Stack.
You could kind of see like, let's just give it a go. Let's see how much just see how well they can do, how many games they can win the championship. It'll be fun for them. But yeah, I think at a certain point it's like, all right, this is enough. The other teams, I think, maybe put in protest.
Lake County felt that way.
Yeah, Lake County. That was the first time they won in Lake County in a while, though. I mean,
Lake County was there.
They treated him like Hannibal treated the Romans at the Battle of Cannae. They annihilated them entirely.
Lake County was kind of their kryptonite so far. That was the only 2 series they'd lost so far, and then they just came out and annihilated them, except for the one game where Austin Murr got to pitch.
They're going to get one more chance before the All-Star break.
So you're absolutely right. The Rainer Castillo came back down to earth. I'm not sure what's going on with him. He's been a model of inconsistency. But John Peck, 14 for 29 for the week. Max Clark, 9 for 22. McGonigal had an quote-unquote off week with 2 home runs, going 8 for 27. Has a WRC plus of 211. 2 damn 11. Pacheco did tweak his ankle, and I mentioned, I think Tiger Turkmoil tweeted this out earlier. Somebody in our Discord, I think it might have been Jake actually, mentioned that I think it was Sergio.
No, Samuel Hill is coming up.
Samuel Hill, yeah, thank you. That was going to be called up there. Jake, I think he turned it on a little bit. That's the only thing I could.
It didn't look that bad, but yeah.
He was running from first to third, and he kind of hobbled into third base. He actually stayed in the game and scored, and then they took him out and put McGonigal in. McGonigal was their replacement. It was his day off, and they're like, "Well, I guess we got to play McGonigal now." And you know,
and he just went 1 for 4. Like, all right, I don't care. I think it was already 10-0 by then, wasn't it? And then they went on to score 21 runs.
He scored. I think he scored the. I think McGonigal had the 10th run RBI batted in, I believe, or something to that effect. But Steph Stevenson had a really good game, a good series too as well in terms of in the outfield. He made that catch that we showed earlier. Yeah, unbelievable catch. Patrick Lee's also coming in his own a little bit, and Peyton Graham continued 3 home runs in the series, a triple, 2 doubles, a pair of walks. He's striking out less, and Peyton Graham is going to be getting some more attention for sure. And it was Sean made a joke about him having more protein shakes. I just think he's healthy. I think he's finally healthy.
He still doesn't look as built up as I had kind of hoped he would be by this point. But yeah, I mean, after like a ton of core injuries and God knows what else was going on with him, yeah, it just feels like he's kind of like settled into himself. He's still not doing enough to like get real excited about. Like it still kind of looked like maybe he could be, Jahmai Jones, but with like bigger, more speed and bigger arm kind of a guy at some point, like maybe a lefty masher type or something. But yeah, it's just nice to see him like healthy and like playing the game and looking like he's having fun, because he looked miserable to me most of last year.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He's liking our tweets now. I can tell he's having fun because he's liking our tweets.
Right on. And Emily did mention that he talked to her and said that he gained 15 pounds.
Okay.
You can't really tell, but he was like, "Yeah, I finally gained some weight." We're like, "All right, well that helps."
Yeah, we were going to send him the empanadas and arepas recipes, try to help him,
but I mean, it just. It's a crazy lineup right now. John Peck, there's a little bit too much strikeout and not enough walk there, but it's like not prohibitive right now. But I think it's going to get him at higher levels.
Yeah,
but
he's got more power than I kind of thought he did have. He's put the charge into it.
He's always had good raw power, right? But he puts the ball on the ground a little too much, and you'll see him oftentimes his home runs go to the opposite field rather than pull it. But yeah, I mean, like he's a talented player. He's got pretty good tools across the board. And Max Clark's June numbers there, it's like we might be seeing a repeat of last year. Honestly, like, he kind of was floundering there, not floundering, but, just kind of stagnating for a few weeks. And then these last couple of weeks, he's just been on base constantly.
Yeah. And a little bit more pulling the ball, a little bit more air power, which was kind of the same pattern last year. Like it was just like spraying lots of line drives, the opposite way and ground balls and, racking up tons of hits and living on base. And he's doing that again this year. And then he started like getting used to the level. And then you started seeing some more balls get pulled and hit in the air, and the power started to show up. And yeah, hopefully that's what we're seeing here. And, that's how it goes. The process might just repeat again at Erie, where, he has to kind of go back to sort of shorten it up and just, and just getting on base, and then hopefully eventually hit for some more power there. And then hopefully eventually get more, kind of like average to a little above average raw power. Like that's still the thing. He's still hitting the ball on the ground a ton. I think, Max Clark is going to be a pretty good player, but I'm still going to kind of withhold judgment from getting crazy excited until I start seeing a little more pop.
Yeah,
that's all.
Well, I mean, I if he's doing the same thing he did last year, there's a little bit of that Colt Keith factor that we liked about Keith, right? Where it was like, he was challenged and he had to figure it out, and then he eventually improved. Keith seemed to do it, generally speaking, in a month or two. And Clark is seemingly doing that too. But you're right. Like between him, McGonigal, and Briseño, I think they probably had a dozen hard hit singles between first and second base. And part of that is because there were always people on base, so they had to, hold the runner at first. But poor Lake County. They were real tired of that.
Yeah, the announcers were running out of words, but they said some nice words about Steph Stevenson article that Emily wrote, so that was really nice of them. Thank you for the shout out there.
Those were some of the most optimistic announcers I've ever heard. Like they're like, hey, you never know, man. There was once they were down 14 runs and they came back and they were. I was like, keep pushing it for it, guys. And they did make a nice comeback on Sunday. It was like the first time Carlos Lequerica has given up runs this year. It ended up being a 10-8 game. I think they were. I think the Whitecaps were up like 9-2 at one point.
By the way,
it was funny in that 21-run game when Austin Murr came into pitch, and they were sort of like, "All right, well, there's a chance to kind of close the gap a little bit," you know.
Yeah.
By the way, the Whitecaps have 5 pitchers in their bullpen with an ERA under 2. Mikael Ashman, technically Jordan Marks, but he's gone. But Preston Howery, Colin Fields, who also got called up, and Marco Jimenez. And then Carlos did technically until just recently, but that's quality. As far as Jake wants to know who would potentially get the call up to Erie, I think I would look at starters at this point. Really, I mean, I don't think I would have thought that maybe by now Rainer Castillo, but he's having such a bad year.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
He's too valuable, like it's probably going to be some guys who aren't necessarily like priorities, I would assume.
Yeah, maybe Andrew Sears, but I could even see Sears staying the whole year because I think the numbers are really good, but I still think he needs a little more polish down there. I know they love Preston Howery. Yeah, Nick was telling Preston Howery would be a fantastic addition. He's been really good out of the bullpen, but man, Erie needs so many innings right now. There are. Again, just the fact that they are still winning at a high clip, not losing a series with all 4 guys out of the rotation now. So you have Miller, who has no timetable. Jake Miller, no idea when he's going to come back.
Yeah.
So that's definitely. As far as by the way, there was a trade question. We'll have to get to. We'll have to. We got some mock trade season just coming around the corner. But first things first, we got draft season.
Yeah, come back to us after draft season. Then it's fake trade season.
Exactly.
I could see Howie moving up, and I could see maybe Ashman, although he's a little younger, and you might give him a little bit more time. But it's probably just gonna have to wait. I'm sure Scott Harris will trade Jack Flaherty for some prospects.
Yeah, there we go. They'll back for that. Lakeland continuing to roll as they swept Clearwater. And again, this is, Chris and I have talked about this obsessively. I like what you said about, is it Stars? How do you say that name, Chris? Thomas?
Sapuki.
Oh, Sapuki.
Yeah, kind of nasty. Yeah, very nasty. It's all Lakeland's bullpen too. Like Lakeland's bullpen has been really good, but my favorite part about this week is Gabriel Reyes is pitching like Gabriel damn Reyes should be pitching. 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, and he's been picking up the slack a little bit, and he's been a model of consistency. And Haydeen, the offense isn't but they've won a lot of 1-0, 2-0 games.
Yeah,
they just get it done.
Yeah, and they've got a power bat in Garrett Pennington, who I don't really know how far he can go, but he hit 2 homers yesterday, and one of them I think was 111.8. I mean, he's an older, international free agent signing, and I don't really know if he's going to go that far, but for that level, he's kind of a beast to have in your roster. But it does kind of come down to Jackson Strong and Fran Yerber Montilla as far as actual position player prospects. There isn't really that much more. But the pitching staff has carried them. Like you said, Reyes is maybe ready to move up. Lucas Ellisalt may be ready to move up. You guys kind of highlighted him a couple weeks ago, and he's continued to pitch well. And I kind of looked him up, and I mean, he does kind of have that Joe Ryan-ish vibe to him, where it's really low arm slot with riding fastball and good spin rates on his breaking stuff. He's interesting. So they've got some pitching, and that's where West Michigan gets some help, and then they can send something up along. We're still waiting for sort of as you guys said, the backfill to allow them to push some guys forward. But yeah, I mean, Ellisall, certainly Reyes look like they might be ready to move up, and then Josh Randall and RJ Sales kind of look like they could use more time, even though they've been semi impressive.
Yeah, and Moises Rodriguez has been pretty good too. I still think he's got some really good numbers.
I love a guy who throws 100.
Yeah, he definitely could. Wonder if you get some more tutelage and how you could continue to get better with that.
Well, and the other thing at Erie too, Tanner Kohlhub, maybe could if he gets healthy and gets in a groove, he's going to move up. They reassigned Tyler Madison's rehab assignment is over, and he's at Erie now, and he hasn't really done a whole lot. Freddie Pacheco hasn't done a lot, but they do have those guys who maybe if they get it together, could go help at Erie, and then if they get it together, can progress and maybe even help the Tigers sometime this year.
So, by the way, we are doing the draft show this year. It'll be our, holy crap, it's going to be our 6th draft show. I actually started pulling up, is it 6? We've been since 2019.
What was the first one we did?
Was that the one where you made us the empanadas? I think it was.
Yeah, 2018, 2019, I think it was.
I have not forgotten.
Yeah, that was. I think it was. Yeah, it was 20. You know what I have to start doing, and I've been working on this West Michigan project, but I want to start pulling clips from our old draft shows and start making like a collage of clips.
Don't get the clip from when they drafted Max Clark.
Yeah, don't do that, because then everybody will be like, Roger was insistently mad the first 5 minutes, and yeah,
we worked it out. Yeah,
it worked out. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. No, the first one I remember doing was the Job draft, but I'm sure we've did one before that. Like, I don't think we would have been in person for the 2020 draft because it was still like the middle of COVID.
I think we did the draft. I think we did a draft.
Was that draft we were all together for at your house, Chris? Was that 21?
I think so. Maybe
it was. It feels longer ago.
Yeah, maybe. I would have sworn we did a draft show in 2019, though. I really, really think we did.
Well, we can go back and look. Well, I don't even think the Tigers minor league report existed.
No, you guys were still.
But we did some sort of draft show, though. It was so Walter says Joe Pool Jump was my first. So
Big Splash. You know what? I think we did do a show in 2020 because I feel like the first Big Splash was when the Orioles took the outfielder. Heston Kjerstad, didn't they take him early instead of?
Maybe it was
Austin,
that year.
That was the year that that was the year we did that where I jumped in the pool and I did the belly flip, and that sucked. So, by the way, so I do have the MLB, I do have the draft show with Jackson Jobe and Ty Madden here. So I do have I can. Yeah, I'll pull that up here in a second, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one. We had a little a dry erase board in the background with our our picks on there. Harrison was playing Settlers of Catan with us.
Chris, when did you get your dog? How old was
he? April 2020.
Okay, so that's when we did it because he was a pup.
That's right.
At the show I was at. Yep.
He was eating your face.
This is by the way, this is from 3 years ago. This is when we were Tigers SRD. So this is how long ago this was.
Yeah.
Check out Chris's hair right here. Look at this. Look at this hair. Look at that magnificent hair.
Magnificent. Stringy and useless.
Yeah, look at me and my I have lost weight. Look at that. Though and I'm trying to figure out, I know we're having mic issues. I remember that. Scott Bentley's gonna be with us, but I think it was when I'm trying to think. I'll have to pull up. Anyway, we got plenty of time to pull up clips from this stuff, but yeah, good times.
Skate or die, Chris.
But you're damn right. Chris has some checkered chucks somewhere, I'm sure.
I don't know. That's Tara. Tara loved wearing chucks. It was not me.
As far as the Charles, as far as if Brandon can share anything about the podcast free agency stuff, it just happened.
It was news to me as well.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I need to go talk to my boy. I don't actually know.
Yeah.
I can guess.
I can have. Yeah, we have a couple of theories of why, but again, that's none of my. I'm not speculating. We'll just leave it at that. We know. We may know, but But as far as we'll have to again.
Yeah.
For another time, another day. All right, let's go back and finish up with the FCL Tigers as let's see here. Lost my train.
Nothing too crazy down there. They had another game on that we could watch, and it's complex league stuff. There wasn't. I don't think there were a ton of home runs. Osorio has picked it back up again. He's really had a strong season. It'll be interesting to see if they call him up here at the end. Once some of the guys from Lakeland move up, and it'll be also. I'm kind of curious what they will do with if when McGonigal, Clark, and Briseño go to the Futures game. Who is going to help fill in?
Yeah,
maybe it won't matter that much, I guess, if they're not playing. But Junior Tillian had a big week. That's not supposed to be a junior. That's supposed to be a home run there. But He was like their minor league Rule 5 guy. He doesn't need to be in the FCL. He's just kind of rehabbing.
Yeah.
Then after that, just not a ton of. Still a bummer that Jesus Pinto got hurt and is on the 60-day IL because he was having a really nice early campaign and he's got a bunch of tools. But
yeah, and like we've talked about, a lot of the pitchers, that they've been looking for the last 2 years have just kind of got injured or sort of disappeared into the organizational maw, like Shufflebean and Paul Wilson's hurt. Owen Hall's hurt. Like everybody's hurt.
Yeah, Wilbert Mendez was kind of the first secret guy. We're like, hey, he's kind of interesting, and hasn't been terribly great, but he had a nice start this week, and Salcedo keeps pitching well. Ali Tanner had a solid start with 5 strikeouts.
It'd be nice to see those guys, get to the Florida State League. I'd like to see Jank Diaz, in the Florida State League. Hasn't, none of them's like setting the world on fire, but all of them are interesting, at least interesting, legit prospects, I would say.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying that the kind of circular nature of the way that these games work. It's 2 against the same team, and they get Wednesdays and Sundays off. That basically every time that they're on that broadcast, the Phillies broadcast, it's always the same pitchers. And I was like, come on, I want to see somebody different. But
same game every time.
The way it is, yeah.
Yeah, there's I love the. Oh, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that it would be nice to see them kind of earn their way in Lakeland, but I wouldn't mind them kind of struggling a little bit because I think it would make them better anyway. Because I just think the complex league, it's not against a complex league, but it's just, I think that's how they're going to get better. Just like I don't want to say sink or swim, but there's
I have a little bias too toward like wanting them to get kind of punched in the mouth a little bit before the end of the season, where it's like, okay, I got to go into the off season. Like I can't, I got to get it going. One of the crazy things, I mean, I don't know if we mentioned this, but that Colt Keith had a seat appearance where he talked about the thing we've talked about so many times about how he struggled and couldn't get it going. It was really interesting to hear how despondent he was a couple of those first, tough starts to seasons. Talking to Trammell, like, I don't know, man, and Trammell being like, no, you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna be just fine. And Keith being like, I don't know, and that's Colt Keith. So you imagine what it's like for a lot of these guys to just like get sent up to another level, and all of a sudden all these guys have a killer breaking ball and a changeup and are just spotting stuff on you, and you're like, I cannot see what's coming. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, and the funny part about that is that Trammell told him and he was going to be fine, and they weren't worried about it. And then a couple of years later, he talked to somebody, and they're like, "Yeah, we were pretty worried about you."
Yeah. Like, never say it though. You gotta fake it. You gotta fake it till you make it, King.
Yeah. By the way, he is not a fan of. I found out he doesn't like the Dark Knight.
Who?
Colt Keith is not a fan of the Dark Knight. We're talking. I showed him my movie list because I know he's a movie guy, and I showed him my New York Times like the voting thing. And he's like, "You like the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? It was in my top 10." He's like, "Dark Knight." I was just like, I can't get into superhero movies. I was like,
I can understand that because I am the same way, but the Dark Knight was a whole different world. I mean, it's a different thing. Like I wasn't a big Marvel guy, although I eventually got won over and was like, this was kind of an awesome series, I have to admit. but the Dark Knight was the only thing I would really cop to for the longest time that I really, really liked. I will say points to Colt Keith and Dylan Dingler both for being like, I'm classic rock guy. I was like, hell yeah. But.
Yeah. And speaking of, there was by the way, Charles, let's quickly answer Charles' question. Thank you for the compliment. When could Chris Rodriguez join FCL? 18?
There's no age restrictions for joining the FCL. If you have the proper, work visa or whatever, you can come up. I will say this, Chris Rodriguez had that game where he hit a double and a home run off Kevin DeFrank, who was throwing upper 90s. Since then, he's gone 3 for 33. With 10 strikeouts. Actually, until today. He had 2 hits today. But this is what you get from a young power hitter. Like, there's going to be a lot of swing and miss. What you hope is he can eventually grow out of that and get better. But the power is legit. But, the baseball skills aren't there yet. And so I don't think there's any real rush there. It wouldn't shock me if he stays in the Dominican for 2 seasons.
Jake, I do like, by the way, Jake said it'll be interesting the Tigers go with smaller school, D1 schools like Strong and McDonald again. I do like that idea. And I think that, especially in the New York area, like the East Coast schools, there's going to be, I'm starting to do my draft articles and starting getting that going. And there's some of the intrigue already is there, especially because I'm trying to look at outside California, which is something the Tigers have been doing a lot of recently. But yeah, now it's time to dive into the East Coast, Martha's Vineyard, and like upper state New York, that kind of thing.
Canisius College, of course. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Sacred
Sacred
Heart.
Heart. Yeah, you gotta have it.
St. Joe's in Philadelphia, though, right? I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody asked earlier too, like about will the Tigers take pitching in the first couple rounds, and I mean, you never know, but I kind of doubt it. They've taken a lot of pitching; it just doesn't look like it. So if you're thinking, I can't remember who asked that, but if you're thinking like it doesn't look like there's that much pitching from Double-A on down, I mean, you're kind of right at the moment. But they have a lot. They have a lot of arm talent stockpiled, and it's just a question of getting those guys healthy and on track over the next couple of years. I don't really think that's going to be the case. Like I think they would like to use like their 5 through 15 picks and collect as many fairly hard throwing prep arms who, either have extension or spin or something that they can work with, and just kind of keep doing it that way. I'd be very surprised if there was ever a Jackson Jobe type pick out of this group, unless it was like, Paul Skeens because they have the first overall type thing. I don't think they're going to take a lot of pitching, but they've only done 2 drafts. You never know. I don't want to lock him to a corner either, but
yeah, I mean, I will say just the kind of the shape of this draft.
Yeah.
At least what we've read from people who are following it closely is that there's a ton of really interesting prep infielders, and there's like a decent amount of college pitchers. Nobody who like screams future ace or anything like that. I suppose maybe there's always somebody who outperforms.
Couple guys at the top, yeah.
But it depends. Like if there's like a run on these high school infielders from like 15 to 20, and there's like none of the guys that are left are guys they like a lot, I could see them maybe taking a college pitcher there at 24, or I could see them going prep infielder and college pitcher at 34, something like that. I wouldn't predict it either. I tend to agree with Brandon. Like when you have these high picks, go for the upside, go for the offensive players. This is where you get future good offensive players. You don't get them later. You can get good pitchers later. You can teach Dietrich Enns to throw a kick changeup at 34 and come up and have him throw 5 shutout innings in the big leagues.
Yeah. You don't turn somebody into Riley Greene at 34.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Garco mentioned too that they've basically are trusting their scouts to find pitchers anywhere. I mean, if you look at all the independent league signings, I know, granted, the shortening of the draft has increased independent league signings. Be that as it may, some guys, Wash is an example of guys that are developing late and getting some time. Where again, I'm still miffed why the Nationals dropped that guy in the first place. I really am. Joe Hill, the end of the podcast. Thank you very much for the $5, much appreciated. And I'm trying to find my little.
But like Chris is saying too, like there's also that like saving some money.
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. What was that? I'm sorry. I just put you off.
Well, just the other thing about like saving some money, maybe saving some money with a college pitcher if they really really like somebody, so that they can go get the prep shortstop or center fielder that they like.
Yeah, and there might be a college guy. I think there's a
Jason Cunningham or whoever.
There's a pitcher at LSU I really like. Yeah, I like that guy a lot.
Yeah, he's a guy that he doesn't throw very hard. There's kind of like a Montalvo-ish quality to him, like where it's like there's a lot there to like. He just doesn't throw terribly hard.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think you can tease more out of him, then he would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, he's an option in that range. I don't know. We'll be discussing drafts plenty upcoming, and
we shouldn't open that can of worms right now, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's why you should join our Patreon.
Yeah,
this Magglio question, that's interesting because it's been a while now. If you go back and live in that era, Magglio was the star hitter on their team.
Yeah.
It was like Magglio and Granderson, and then like Carlos Guillen was really good, and then they traded for Miggy, and like Magglio just kind of faded into the background.
Yeah.
But that 2007 season for Magglio Ordoñez is one of the better hitting seasons in Tigers history. Honestly, it gets overshadowed by Miggy's constant MVP campaigns. But yeah, like Magglio didn't have a great long run of being above average.
Yeah.
But he was in that home run he hit to end the 2006 ALCS is going to live for Tigers fans forever. I think he will always be beloved in some capacity. It is unfortunate what happened toward the end of his career when everybody started hating on him and calling him Singlio and
Yeah.
They didn't
that
know
really
what was going on with his
pissed me
life.
off.
Like his wife had like cancer or something like that, and was
Yeah.
dealing with all sorts of issues, and fans
And his
didn't
knees
care.
were still shot. Like
Yeah.
you know, I mean, he basically came back from, you know, I don't want to say the dead, but his knees were, you know, shot, and he went through that microfracture procedure, came back, had a bunch of great seasons for us, but it was never going to last forever. But yeah, it's just one of those things where he was, you know, he wasn't a homegrown Tiger, and he wasn't great enough here for long enough like Miggy was to sort of become a franchise icon. But if you were around for that 2006-7 era where like the Tigers came back from the dead and they had been terrible for so long, like Magglio was such a huge part of that. I think he'll always have a kind of place in most Tiger fans' hearts who were around at the time.
Not
Like
to
you're
me.
talking-
Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
I was just say he's a career 309 hitter. Like
Yeah.
that's
Great hitter. I mean, he was
Yeah.
he was untouchable for a while. It was pretty impressive.
I will say this: out of all the free agent signings, I remember following the Magglio one very closely in the paper every day because he was going to Europe to get his knee checked out and everything. And I think I wrote an article about this at Motor City Bengals. To me, Magglio Ordoñez swing, just a perfect swing. Like he had really good swing. I just like he just really professional at bats. Everybody talks about Liberatore doing the same thing, and Ordoñez was the prime example of that. And Joe's right. He gets buried because of all the accolades. And again, his 2007 season where he produced a 7 WAR, then after that was kind of like that. But I remember
they didn't win.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. If they'd
Yeah.
won that World Series, like Magglio was a good Tigers legend, but
yeah.
and people give like Pudge credit for signing the year before and being like, oh, that's what returned it around. And it's like, well, you know, I mean, Pudge was good for a few years and you know, great teammate and all that stuff. But yeah, Magglio just hard singles the other way, and you throw him a breaking ball, he's going to crush it for a home run. It was just it was fun to watch him hit.
Yeah, Nick explains that he had heard annual tip one of the bullpen catchers like $10,000 a year. He won the batting title, but that's what I'm saying. Like people saw him in Birmingham all the time, just having wine by himself, and he was like a man about town, and he just really enjoyed being around here. And so it's, I don't know, like I do now. It makes me want to think I want to do an article about him. But I remember the whole entire the signing period, and I was excited because I know he produced with the White Sox. He was an all-star. He was an all-star a couple times. He was a pain in the ass whenever the Tigers faced him, and so yeah.
And I'm not so sure that he isn't more beloved than Pudge. I mean, nobody talks about Pudge anymore.
No.
But I think Maglio's home run kind of like was just like a reminder. Like there's always that memory that really stands out. Whereas Pudge was more like the ESPN signing, you know what I mean? Like the way I don't know if you guys saw that article. I couldn't help noticing it right before the game last night, where they're like, well, it's still the Yankees and the Dodgers because these stars, and they, they just don't get it. But that's the way they have always thought, and it's just like casual fan nonsense.
Well, it's funny, by the way,
people who get paid a lot of money. So
well, it's I find it ironic that ESPN or MLB is like, you know what, ESPN, we're going to try to keep you around. They're renegotiating keeping Sunday Night Baseball around.
Should just buy them. Like what would it cost to buy ESPN at this point? Like $10, $20?
Well, I mean, the reason why they go in the New York, LA handle so much is the angle is because they were one of the highest viewed games, and no one cares about Minnesota and Detroit, blah, 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 blah. If you're not New York, LA, and the whole East Coast, West Coast bias crap. It gets living in the Midwest sucks because as a sports fan, because it doesn't matter. Like LeBron James could take a crap and it's news, and so it is what it is. And
I've come to embrace it though. I don't mind that. I just mind the way they look at teams, like the fact that they're wrong about teams. It's okay that they promote their players more. It's probably better, like if you're Skubal, wouldn't you rather pitch in Detroit? Do you want to be on the front page of newspapers and like have people in your face and people pissed all the time? Like I'd rather play for the Tigers, where you're like in a chill town with tons of good food and people are just sort of like, Midwesterners, man, Midwest is best. I'm sorry.
Pudge praised his homeland more than Detroit fans. I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, I never really Pudge.
I don't know, but he never felt like hometown guy to me.
Yeah,
either.
I mean, he signed here because he had really no other alternative. And Scott, that if you really think about it, but he made money here. He was productive, and it's more you can ask for. I mean, there's some guys in this town that are so beloved that I don't get it. I mean, everybody talks about Don Kelly all the time.
Doing a heck of a job with the Pirates lately.
Yeah, he is. He's doing a fantastic job. But then it's like, then there's some people that like you think it would be obvious, and fans are like, nah, they never embrace them, and that's like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like Carlos Guillen comes to mind. Like for example, Carlos Guillen. There's a few people I know who really like Carlos Guillen. Beyond that, no one ever talks about Carlos Guillen, and I'm miffed up by it.
Everybody just remembers Carlos Guillen for stunting on Weaver, and we loved it. We love that very much.
That was basically that was toward the end of his run. Like, he was so good in the mid 2000s. It was just, I think it was one of those things where the idea of wins above replacement hadn't really reached mainstream, so people didn't realize that how valuable it was to have a shortstop who go 20-20 and hit 300.
Yeah,
but
and still play solid D. Yeah,
it is what it is. I mean, we could go on and on about that, but it's getting late. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to us at home, again, you can go to TigersMLReporter.com. There's a couple articles up there. We're starting our draft coverage starting tomorrow. There's going to be some content rolling out. If you go to our Patreon, the video side of it, the more breakdowns will be coming out this week. Brandon, what do you have going on? Oh, by the way, I wanted to send my condolences to just give a shout out to Brady.
Brady McAdamy, one of our former writer, but was still in our chat and stuff. Young sports writer, only 28 years old, who died a week ago. Unfortunately, just sort of in his sleep. He'd had some medical complications over time, but he was like a local high school sports writer from Troy. Went to Troy High School, worked for the Macomb Daily. Just a really good dude. Pretty just shocking news. Unfortunately, hate to see it, especially when they're that young. But it wasn't. I don't know. I don't know how to feel. It's like it wasn't like a long terrible illness. I don't. It's kind of like the Kloss thing where you're just like, what the how?
Yeah,
oh, man. Somebody just gets yanked. Gets yanked out of you. So. Yeah, that sucks. We'll have a tribute to him up tomorrow. You could read my Dietrich Enns kick change piece over there, and we'll have plenty more coming.
Yeah, if you're looking at how the MLB future from the past fared out, then we have a couple articles up on that. But Chris is going to be traveling again this week. So don't you have something coming out later this week, though, right?
I should have the 2005 draft. Kind of look back done and ready to go out tomorrow.
Sweet.
Then then we'll have, I think I'm doing outfielders, and then in the 2015 kind of draft review, and then one of the pitchers, either college or high school pitching.
I
got
infielders.
I got the recap tomorrow night too.
Yeah, I got the infielders and I got pitchers coming out. So thanks so much. Stay close, everybody. Have a good night.
Night, guys.